Hi everyone, it's me Darlene. I am back with another mystery block. If you're not familiar with this series, there's a playlist link in the description of this video, and it will also pop up on the end screen at the end of this video. I just decided to sit down. I opened my box and I put a lot of tone-on-tone whites like this. There is a pattern on there. It's like, I don't know, I think roses or something. I don't generally put stuff like this in my scrap packs because it reads too much like a solid. So I put them in my own scraps for things like this, and they're good for crumb quilting, stuff like that. So I thought I would use a piece. I don't know that I want it this wide, but I'm aiming for maybe at least a 9-inch mystery block this time. And I like this. I've used it in another block, and I like the little bones. It goes with this. So this is, let's see. This is about 1.5 inches wide by 7 tall. And this is about 4.5 inches wide and make it at least 7 inches tall. I put this with this because it almost fits. And so, like crumb quilting, I'm just going to put this here, and I'm going to sew, and I might trim this, but we'll see. Here's what I decided to do. I decided to trim it. I didn't want that much white, and I trimmed it so that I would have enough left over. So when I trim this, that gives me another piece for another block, or maybe a crumb block. So what I'm going to tell you is, you can put any 2 pieces of fabric together. If you want to strip on one side like I have, go ahead. But what you can do, put 2 pieces of fabric together just so it's interesting, and then open and press, and then trim to, let's see, this is 5 1/4 by 4. Easy as that. You just want something 5 1/4 this way, 4 this way, but this might turn. You know, I'm just letting you know. Now I have to figure out what happens next. This isn't going to fit on what I just did, but I just found these 2 purples and I really like them. So I'm going to put them together. These are, I just measured and I already forgot, 3 1/2. Both of them are 3 1/2 by 2. And I don't know if I want to make a strip. I think I'm going to make a nice little block like this. So I'm just going to put them together like that, and I'm going to sew. Now I have this, and I have this. But I'm going with this, and I'm going to add a strip. I didn't even measure it. I just pulled it out of my scraps. 3. It's 3 inches this way. And just make it long enough to fit this piece. So you don't have to measure and cut. Just put it here and sew until you get off the end of that. If you want, you can do it this way. Let's do it that way. Let's see. All right, we've got this like this, and then I'm putting my piece there. And I'm going to sew, and I'll hop off when I'm off there. And now I will go trim that off the top or the bottom. We don't know yet. I absolutely love purple and green together. And I'm going to do this. I want my seam to go there. So this is 3 1/2 this way, and this is 1 1/2. So get a 1 1/2 inch strip that's longer than this, and we're going to do the same thing. But I'm going to do it like this so I can start there. I'm going to flip like this, and you can make it stick out on both sides a little bit if you want, because sometimes we think we're sewing straight and we think we have enough, and then we open and it's not enough. So I'm going to do that, and I'm sewing right there like that. I've got a nice wide piece of gray. It is 2 3/4. And you're going to make it long enough to go over here. Like that. I am having so much fun with this. look at this print. I have some 5-inch squares in my exclusive store. I don't know which one. I don't know if it's bulk or flash, but if they don't sell out, they will go to eBay. Oh yeah, so I have to tell you things. This is this piece that I just worked on, and I want something across the whole top. 2.5. So you need something 2.5 by whatever your thing measured. Like this, mine is about 6.5. Once again, I'm just doing this. Why would we ever want to, you know, cut it and then have to make a perfect join? We're not doing that shit. I want to put something big here. We're going to be making a 10-inch block. I'm excited. We want something as tall as this, which is, I'm at like almost 5.5, about 5.5. So there's not going to be much waste for me here. I'm leaving it this size, but realistically, you know, so let's say 6. That's good, so it fits on there. 6 this way, but you really would only need 5 this way. But I have a 6-inch square. I'm going to be guaranteed to have it be wide enough, but I think you can get away with 5 depending on your seam allowances. So I'm just doing this, and I'm sewing right there. Okay, I'm going to explain something to you. First of all, this is going to be trimmed at 10 inches. But I don't need to trim it right now, so I'll be cutting off about this much. I'm just going to leave it as is, and then I can trim, and all will be good. I'm going to have this guy under it somewhere. I believe I want it this way. But now, if I were to sew this, I'm going for a 10-inch block. This, after the seam allowance, lose about 1/2 inch for the seam allowance. That's 9. So I would have to be using like a very narrow strip here to make 10. And I don't want to be trimming on the edge like that. Now I could trim at the top, but I just don't like narrow strips on the edge, especially if they're kind of long. I don't mind this, that's on the edge. Whoops. But that's okay. It's encased with this and this. It's not just going to be an edge that's going to be flipping around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a strip in the center, but only on this piece for now, because then I'm going to decide where I want it. That way, when we trim, we'll be trimming on the bottom of this. Now, we could take off as much as we want. It's not going to matter, because these are all going in a vertical direction. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, I'm going to put a strip on this, and I want it, I would say at least 1.5 inches. I found this piece that's actually going to fit. It's cut a little bit crooked. That's got a straighter edge. I'll go with that. This is actually a 2-inch scrap. So you want 2 inches this way, and I've got 8 inches. Do 9. Do 9 so then you can trim. And I'm being brave, and I'm just going to lay this down, and I'm just going to sew. I don't care if it's a little wonky. I'm sewing right there. Now I need to look for a piece, and I'm going to make it just one piece. That's going to let me trim this so that it's 10 inches wide. I'm good on this end. I'd be able to trim a lot there, and whatever piece I put over here, I'll be able to trim. So let me just go find something. This is going to work, and I'm not trimming it in advance. It's going to go like this. So you need something that is at least 5.5 inches tall. I would say go at least 6. And then you need 10 inches this way. Now we know we can trim plenty of this. So I'm going to just, I want to be sewing like this and attaching this here. So I'm just going to sew down this side. I ended up trimming this to 11, and then it will be trimmed down again to 10. But it's going to give me a chance to see how I want this to work. Now this is also too long. Now I want to match up this edge because I don't want to lose this, you know, any part of this little green flower print. It might have to be trimmed a little bit, but that's okay. Here's what I'm looking at. Now I can sew those two things together, and then when I press, I will trim and make it 10 inches square. It's not what you're used to. You're used to seeing people put all the pieces together with the exact sizes, but I just don't do that because why? Why do that? So I'm going to flip this here, and I want to match up this edge as best as I can, and I'm just going to sew all the way down. I'm going to open and press, and no matter how crooked it can be, you're going to be able to get 10 inches in all directions, this way, this way. So I'm going to press it, I'm going to trim it. Obviously, once again, I'm not taking anything off this side unless I have to just trim to make it even. I can take off as much as I want down here, and I've got, you know, quite a bit here, but I want to keep as much of the doggies as I can. So I'll be trimming down here, and then here I'm good to trim wherever. And here it is. And it's, you know, it's wonky. Even my little green strip ended up being a little bit wonky. I'm good with all of it. I really like it. So now we have a 10-inch square. This is the first one we make 10 inches. I think we have 9, maybe an 8. I think we have a 6. All right, I hope that through this you're learning a little bit more about how to just do this yourself and just wing it and not worry about it. The best thing I can suggest is put smaller pieces in the center and bigger pieces on the outside so you have room to trim things. You know, I like it very much. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to see all the other mystery blocks that are coming up. Bye!